Alrighty, hello everyone. This is a continuation of the previous exercise. We'll be talking about a couple different topics here. In this episode, we'll be talking about formatting things in Excel and kind of going around there. So I'd first like you to call your attention to, in the description below, there is a link to a spreadsheet. That's the spreadsheet we'll be using in this example, and we'll be editing from the spreadsheet. So we'll be working out of here. Real quick, I'm going to tweak something, and then we'll be ready to go while you guys get the thing downloaded. Okay, so now that you've got the spreadsheet all loaded up, I did want to talk about a couple different things that we might want to be doing when we come to a spreadsheet for the first time. The first thing I like to do in a spreadsheet, okay, so this right here is a view-only file. So what you're going to do is we're going to make a copy of it, and you can do that by going here to File and then to Make a Copy. And then you click there, you can type in whatever name for it you want, save it to whatever folder you want, and when you're started up there, we can clear that gigantic image out of the way. We'll do that like this. That image pops up, you'll click the image and hit the delete sign, and then you can just right click on the big one right here, this column, and delete, or this row, and then delete the row. All right, so now we're looking at a clean spreadsheet right here. Okay, so one thing that I see when I come into a spreadsheet like this is there's a lot of space in here that actually could be tightened up a little bit. And so one way you can do it is we can go to this column right here and we can shrink it up a little bit. Okay, maybe a little bit more. Okay, what am I doing to shrink it? I'm clicking, this is column B and C, so I'm clicking between B and C, and I'm adjusting it by dragging this left and right. But there's actually a faster way of doing this. Excel has a way to auto resize. I can double click so I'm going to move my cursor until I'm at the border between these two columns, and if I double click, it will automatically resize to the size of the column. Now it works for a lot of these things. It doesn't work for this one because for column C, because it's got this text up here. So this one you may just want to use that and then manually resize to whatever size you think is fit for that. And you can do that like this all the way throughout. There's a faster way still of doing all this. You can actually resize it all at once by clicking this little box in the corner here, and then you can double click on any one of these borders and it will resize all of the things in the table at once. And then, of course, this one was kind of weird, so we'll just shrink it back down again. Okay, so that's auto resizing. You can click the border between cells. If you want to auto resize vertically, you can also double click here and auto resize on the rows. Okay, second thing that we might want to be doing when we are going around cells and we want to copy or paste, we can Control-C, Control-V, or copy and paste. And that is a much faster way of doing it than anywhere or typing things manually or things like that. For example, if I wanted to add 30 more days, I can just copy paste 30 times by using my arrow keys to go down and pasting like that. Or I can copy one thing right here and select all these cells right here, and if I paste it, that will extend all the dates as well. What I'm doing to copy is I'm hitting Control-C, and then what I'm doing to paste is I'm hitting Control-V as well. Okay, so that's copy and paste. Let's say I didn't like what I did, I wanted to go backwards. You can hit Control-Z, and Control-Z will basically undo each of the steps that you've done. That is something I use very, very often when I'm working in Excel, and it's a very handy shortcut to remember, so you don't have to then go edit, undo, or do anything like that. By the way, I did mention in the last video, but if you are on a Mac, whenever I say Control, that is the equivalent of using the Command key on a Mac, and that's basically the little squiggly thing that goes like that. So you're not out of luck if you're on a Mac, you just use the Command key instead of the Control key. Okay, the next thing that I want to mention, when you're in a very long spreadsheet with a lot of data in it, like this one, oftentimes the top of the spreadsheet which has all the columns and all the useful information for what you're looking at, it's lost down here. For example, if I said, okay, can someone tell me the number of deaths in the US, you'd actually have to scroll on a certain date. You'd actually have to scroll all the way back up to the top of the spreadsheet and then find that column. oh, that column's over here, and then scroll back down to the date and find it. It might be more helpful if you had these top columns, the column titles, locked in. And you can do that by freezing the top rows or the left columns. And you can do that by going here to View, and if you go to Freeze, we want to freeze all the way up to here. That's the second row. So we're going to freeze up to two rows like this. And we click there, and now what happens when you scroll down is you will see that your titles up here at the top of the screen stay locked in. And that's particularly convenient when you have a really long spreadsheet, so you don't lose your orientation when you're down in the middle of the spreadsheet when there's just numbers everywhere. Just making sure you have your orientation. You can do the same thing on the left side of the screen. For example, if we just wanted to lock this in, I could also go to View, you can go to View, Freeze, and you can freeze one column on the left, and that looks like this. And now if I were to scroll to the right, I can still see which days I'm talking about there. And if you want to reset it, you can turn it off that way. Okay, so that's how you freeze rows and columns. I like to do that as soon as I get into a spreadsheet, just to make sure that it stays in place, and so I'm comfortable when I'm navigating around. All right, the next thing I'd like to talk about is some shortcuts for formatting text. Generally speaking, it's nice if the title text on a spreadsheet is a lot of times you'll bold it or you'll put it in italics. And you could do that. What I've done to select all these things, by clicking on this 2 right here, I can actually select the whole row. And the same thing applies for if you click on that, on the letters for the columns. You can click up here and up here and up here, and that will select columns and rows. So I can just select this right here, which has all my titles, and if I hit Control B for bold, that will bold these things. And if I hit Control I for italics, it will italicize it. I can hit Control U for underlining. I'm just going to bold this right here, and we can refit it by double-clicking those things to make sure that it all fits together. Okay, so now we've talked about bold, italic, underlining. That's just Control or Command bold B, I, and U. Okay, and that's all I got for you.